There are plenty of Enlist E3 soybeans. But these beans are turbocharged with elite germplasm for greater performance. So when harvest comes, your yields are off to the races. Introducing Pioneer brand A-Series Enlist E3 soybeans with exclusive high-performing DNA like no other.
This episode of RealAg Radio is brought to you by Ag Expert. Go from field to farm with Canada's most trusted, most secure farm management software. Ag Expert keeps you on top of it all, no matter where you are. Get started for free at agexpert.ca.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a part of your workday. And of course, big shout out as well to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. It's the Farmer Rapid Fire today, which is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. For more than 90 years, Pioneer's developed and tested products to meet your local challenges. With new Optimum Glide canola, Enlist E3 soybeans, to top performing corn products and industry-leading traits and technologies to maximize your yield potential. Pioneer's on-the-ground teams can help you get the right products for your fields. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. Well, today on the Farmer Rapid Fire, we've got a great lineup of guests. So we're going to hear from Chris Moore. He's just outside of Ottawa in Ontario. Mark Brock is in Staffa, Ontario. Gunter Jochum is in Manitoba. Chris Bauer is in, I would say northeastern Saskatchewan in Lake Lenore. And then we'll also hear today from Doug Moisey. He's an agronomist with Pioneer Seeds Canada. So looking forward to talking to Doug, a long-time agronomist, expert in many different areas of growing a top-performing, high-yielding canola crop. So we'll hear what he is up to this week and what he's hearing in his territory. And smoke. I want to know what kind of impact the smoke has on some of these growing conditions that we've been seeing from these fires in Alberta. If you have any feedback on today's show, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can find us across all the different social media platforms. Or you can call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get started with the Farmer Rapid Fire out in Ottawa, Ontario with Chris Moore right after this quick break.
We have the financial tool you're looking for. An advance payments program, Cash Advance from CCGA, is a low-cost farm financial tool that can help cover your spring working capital needs. Borrow your first $350,000 interest-free, with the rest at prime less 0.75%. Apply on over 50 commodities. Call our experienced team or visit ccga.ca. Cash advances are made under the Government of Canada's Advance Payments Program.
How's your seed quality? What should you treat with? What about herbicide carryover and environmental concerns? Spring is here, and you've got a lot of things to think about in regards to your pulse crop. The Pulse School on Real Agriculture has information and advice for all these questions and more to help you navigate this season. Brought to you by BASF. Pulse School episodes are available at pulseschool.com, realagriculture.com, or as a podcast on your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on Sirius XM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Remember, go to pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. And we start off this week's Farmer Rapid Fire in Kinburn, Ontario, which is just outside of Ottawa. And we're joined right now by Chris Moore. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, Mr. Haney.
So what's happening this week on the farm? Are you out at the solar grazing site for those sheep right now, or what are you doing?
Yep. So far, we just have one site set up. Planning to get another one set up and sheep moved to it this week, if we can. So we'll load up ewes and lambs and just run them an hour and a half across the city of Ottawa to the other site. And we have lambs hitting the ground fast and furious and watching the grass grow and trying to keep up to it.
You got lots of grass?
It's been really good. The grasses are doing really well. And the legumes are starting to come, the clovers and the alfalfa.
Yeah. So how long is lambing season for you? Like, does this stretch out over a couple months?
It feels like it's been about 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I could hear you on that. Yeah.
It's my least favorite time of the year. It's a lot of extra work, but we started like May 2nd or so, and third group is just getting started. The first group's just winding down, and we should be done by June 20th kind of deal.
Oh, wow. So it stretches out over quite a long period.
Yeah, it's about 3 weeks per group, and there's 3 groups. There is some overlap. For some reason, I'm not very smart and did that.
Dude, it's pretty. How does that happen?
I don't know. When I find out, though,
I know who we should talk to rectify that. Talk to HR about that and get that sorted out.
Okay. Exactly, HR.
Yeah. Now, how is the sheep market right now? Is business good, or are there concerns?
Last lambs we sold, they were down a little bit. Haven't been paying a lot of attention lately. Been focused on the birthing. So I'm a little out of touch right now, but it's a little softer than maybe it has been, but that's okay. There's still lots of room to make money.
Now, my understanding is with lambing, twins are common, triplets are awesome. Do you have any quadruplets this year at all?
Twins is awesome. Triplets is too much. Quads and quints are ridiculous because they only have 2 feed stations on a sheep. So, and we have had a lot of triplets, a lot of quads, and way too many quints this year. We did some late season alternative grazing stuff last winter, and it flushed them very well. So when sheep are on an elevated plane of nutrition, they drop more eggs, and that's definitely what happened.
Oh, really? But it's good for business, right? Because it from an inventory standpoint, there's a real bonus there. But I could see how those early days of feeding and health-wise, like if you get quintuplets, like does there tend to be some draggers in that group, or are they all relatively healthy?
The quints were, most of those ewes are only raising singles now, just too small to be viable. Yeah. There's a couple that are still raising quads. We've pulled a lot of lambs to put on the milk machine. So the milk replacer company probably likes the quads and triplets a whole lot more than I do.
Well, you got to keep those suppliers happy. So, hey, how long will those animals be out on the grazing site with those panels? Like, will that be till late fall thing, or how long does it last?
Usually we've gone till October-ish, and then we'll switch out to cover crops and stuff like corn stalks and stuff like that. So we figured it's a lot easier to move our sheep to feed all the time instead of trying to move feed to our sheep.
Yeah. It's like, so in other livestock situations, feed supply is the challenge. For you, it sounds like, lots of feed resources. What's your greatest challenge in the sheep business?
Labor. There's a lot of work, setting up fences, taking them down, moving them. That's probably one of the biggest challenges. Yeah, that's probably
labor.
Yeah.
So how often do you have to move those fences? Are they electric fences or what are they?
Yep, they're electric mesh fences. We're dabbling with some more reels this year, trying to make that work just to save labor. We're doing daily moves right now just because, the grass growing so rapidly. We want to keep those ewes milking on like the best nutrition plane possible. So we don't want them eating it right down to the ground. We want them to eat, the top lush, top quality feed and get them fresh stuff again the next day.
So yeah, that is a big deal then.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it keeps me fit.
What's yeah, you feel that's good. Well, you got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So if you look at how you're, from a production standpoint, working today versus like, I don't know how far you need to go back 5 or 10 years. What's like some of the big, is there been big movement in terms of what that, as you've referenced a couple times, that nutritional plane, has that changed at all in how you get them on that plane, or what's some of the big changes that have happened over your time?
If we go back 10 years ago, we were still trying to do stuff in a barn, and it was so much work. It was a lot of work too. This is just different work. Right now it's really busy because it's lambing season, but our manure is managed by the sheep. Our feed harvesting is again by the sheep. So we're burning way less fuel, which I know a lot of people will recognize as a cost compared to what we used to. And we're running way more animals. So it's just a completely different way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to continue to evolve. That's right. And probably when we jump ahead 5-10 years, we'll probably look back on this period and say, why do we make those changes earlier? Like it all happened.
Man, did we ever have it made back then, right?
Well, that can happen too. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really, really appreciate it. All the best to you. And Lindsay's off this week, so say hi to her for me since she won't talk to me. So.
I will. She's looking at me grinning, but
yeah,
I'll pass it on.
Put her to work.
I'm trying, man. You know what it's like.
It's hard to find good help nowadays.
Oh, preach.
Okay, Chris, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Shaun.
Of course, let everybody in on the joke there. The Lindsay that we're talking about is Real Agriculture's editor, Lindsay Smith, who you hear frequently on this show on Fridays, as well as the guest host is Chris's partner. So that let you in on a little bit of an inside joke there. So she is off this week, working full time on the farm. And time off well deserved, and I know she was looking forward to this week. When we come back on the Farm of Rapid Fire, we've got one more stop in Ontario, and then we are headed west. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
Did you know that Pioneer now has a full lineup of Enlist E3 soybeans? Take a look at Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans for the highest yield potential and for the best agronomic package and herbicide trait options. From the lab to the field, Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans are the best in beans, period. Ask your local Pioneer representative about Enlist E3 beans.
As you head out into the field this season, the Corn School's got you covered. Everything from tillage discussions, weed control info, field trial results, yield strategies, and more. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF. Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from RealAgriculture.com, or as a podcast from your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
Want to get the best out of your soybean crops? Whether you've been growing them for a generation or are just starting into soybeans, find what you need to know at soybeanschool.com. You'll see videos on growing tips, pest control, and much more from specialists across the region, all in one place. Easy for you to access from your desktop, tablet, or mobile phone. Maximize your yields by staying up to date with the Soybean School, presented by BASF, Pride Seeds, and Syngenta Canada.
One of the things I love about the Farmer Rapid Fire is the diversity of the industry. And we're just talking to Chris Moore about sheep grazing on solar sites. And now we're going to drop into Southwestern Ontario and talk to corn and bean farmer. Well, they have sheep too at the Brocks. Yeah, for sure they do. We're talking to Mark Brock from Staffa, Ontario. Mark, welcome back.
Thanks. Happy to be back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a while. Okay, so Mark, how's planting gone? Are you done?
Yes, we wrapped up yesterday, actually. I can't complain. It's been a pretty uneventful planting season for us. Kind of over a 2.5 week period, seemed to get a lot of crops planted around here. I can't believe the speed at which stuff goes in anymore.
And it's not like we're driving faster. It's just the scale of the equipment. That's the difference, right?
Yeah, scale and I think efficiencies. I think just between some equipment efficiencies and then logistics, I think on the farmer side, over the last 5 or 6 years, I would say that farmers have kind of figured out some pinch points on logistics and they've kind of invested in those areas. And I think that's where we're seeing some of this efficiency increase too. Just I can see it on our own end when we kind of improve some of the logistics side, that it just makes the day go much better.
It's like that pit stop mentality, right? We've seen a lot of people focus on this with the sprayer. Like where you really get more acres done in the day is not increasing the width of the sprayer, although that does help, or driving faster. It's the load times that really make the difference. And that's the same with planting.
Yeah, it is for sure. Kind of since we've moved to going more dry fertilizer than liquid, just ensuring that we have really good dry fertilizer logistics in terms of being able to take deliveries and then loading our equipment. It makes things go so much quicker.
Yeah. So, hey, how are conditions?
Oh, things are good. I would say on the borderline of on dry, but not like super dry. Just we kind of haven't had a lot of rain in the last couple of weeks, which is why things have gone in kind of so nice and so quick. We got a bit of rain over this past weekend, but it looks dry for the next couple of weeks. But I think it's good. It gets the roots going on the plants that are just getting established here and make them work a little bit harder, get them deeper in the profile. So we're not hurting for rain by any means.
Yeah. And I guess any changes to the crop mix at all?
No, I think everyone's kind of status quo. I think people get all their stuff kind of planned and in place unless there's some major weather changes or like extreme market stuff. I think most people kind of stick with the original plan. And, there might have been a few more corn acres added because it was going really well. But for the most part, I think everyone's pretty stable, just kind of sticking to the plan they came up with in the wintertime.
Now, if I remember right, you had canola in the rotation last year. Do you have canola again this year?
Yeah, we're just going through, it's just finishing up flowering right now, actually, the winter canola. So it looks quite good.
Nice. And so, okay, so like when you're putting together the crop budget, what yield projection do you put in for winter canola in Ontario?
Well, for me, we've grown it enough years that I'm pretty confident saying, minimum 65 bushels. I kind of budget for 70, and then honestly, we've been knocking on that 80 plus the last couple times we've grown it. So yeah, I like to see this year. I'm kind of optimistic because it's the first time we've grown it. It hasn't got froze during flowering. So it looks quite good. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, well, that's good. So speaking of optimism, how do you feel about the 2023 year ahead? We got a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's economic concerns. What's your state of level of optimism, pessimism as you look at the year ahead, profitability wise?
Well, I think as any farmer, we're cautiously optimistic, but I think we have to push the pencil a little bit harder. Interest rates are up. Operating lines are costing us more on the interest side. Markets have softened since the last couple of years. We're relying on weather to help get us the yield that really helps with the profitability. So, a lot of the stars have to align to get a really good year. I think we're just looking to kind of meet some targets that we have financially, and we rely on Mother Nature to do that. But we're optimistic. It's kind of the reality check. We all know markets go up and markets go down, and we've had a good run for a while. And I think this is just kind of the reality of the business environment that we operate in that, costs go up, prices go down. We got to figure out our margins in between. So
when you follow the market, what's your method? Do you look at it every day? Do you look at it every week? Do you try to just ignore it? And what do you do?
We actually hire. We kind of pay for a service to kind of feed us some market information, market intel. So, I think that's kind of my effort to take the emotion out of the marketing side of things. So we rely on that kind of marketing service, to do that, and kind of give us some insights from a buyer standpoint, kind of trends in the marketplace, trends on exporters. So that's kind of what I use and kind of use that to kind of buffer off the emotional side of things. But, you still have days where you panic when you see the markets crash or something, but we try to take the emotion out of the process.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's what we heard yesterday on the show when we were talking to Scott Shilliday, the cow guy. We were talking about how when you have inventory, you have a bias, right? And so you're cheering for a certain direction. You're not a trader playing both sides up or down, right? So it's taking the emotion out of it's tough.
It's really tough because there's a lot of emotion in what we do farming wise, whether it's dealing with weather or other stressors. But it's important to try to take it out of it and make good business decisions. Yeah. Where it comes back to having a budget and profit targets too. So,
do you get, now that planting's over, do you get sucked into those sheep barns with Sandy, or what goes on now?
Yeah, I don't. It's better for our marriage if I stay at the barn. But I do have to help with hay. So that was my job this morning, was actually getting set up to get ready to cut hay tomorrow. So.
That means it's going to
sheep feed. That's where I get tapped on the shoulder, helping her make sheep feed. So.
Well, you got to keep those sheep fed, and you know what? When you cut hay, that's a good way to make it rain too, man.
Yeah. It's kind of like you always want it to rain after hay. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. All the best to you through the growing season, and we'll definitely check in with you a bit later on in the summer. Okay?
Sounds awesome. Thanks, Shaun.
I like what Mark talked about there, like trying to remove the emotion out of some of the decision making. And the markets, obviously, we talk about this a lot, but there's other things, or identifying where you don't have a strength. Like I think about a lot of farmers reaching out for external help when it comes to something like agronomy. Obviously, we do this with our taxes. We talk to an accountant. We have other external advisors when it comes to some of the financial strategy and planning and things like this. So this is, sometimes you got to say, hey, I need some help here. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a weakness. That's actually a strength, being able to identify that as a farm business owner or any kind of entrepreneur, for sure. The Farmer Rapid Fire on RealAg Radio is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. We'll be right back on RealAg Radio with more of the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
Whether you're seeding, harvesting, or anything in between, the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com has you covered. Timely agronomic information from industry experts available online anytime. Give your wheat crop a good start and a great finish with the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com. Brought to you by C&M Seeds, Syngenta Canada, and the Alberta Wheat and Barley Commission.
Farmer Farmer Rapid Fire on RealAg Radio is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out about all of Pioneer's great lineup when it comes to corn, soybean, and some of the technologies too. Absolutely. Like Enlist. You've also got Optimum Glide. A lot of stuff to find out more about when you go to pioneer.com/Canada. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire into St. Francis Xavier. We're talking to Gunter Jochum. Gunter, how's it going?
I'm doing very well, Shaun. How are you?
Good. I don't know if we've ever talked to you, Gunter, where you haven't been doing very well. I love the optimism. Now, how is seeding progressing?
Well, seeding actually it's progressed really, really well. We're down to touch wood. We should be done tomorrow.
Okay.
And so I just pulled out to the field here. I got a neighbor helping putting a soybean trial in, 20 different varieties. So I just pulled up here, as you call, watching them do that. And I'm so happy they're doing it instead of me having to do it. So our drill can stay on canola. We've got about a day and a half left of canola.
Okay.
Probably less.
Yeah. Now, 20 different varieties. That's a pretty substantial test you're doing there.
Yeah, we do it every year. It's pretty good. Soybeans are not new to Manitoba. We've been growing them since the early 2000s, so about 20 years. And there's so many different varieties. So it's kind of nice to see the new varieties side by side in the field. So they're 1 acre plots. It's just good to kind of see that on farm result.
Good stuff. How's moisture conditions?
Moisture, I can't complain. We've got subsoil moisture is decent. It's getting dry on top, but again, I'm not complaining because seeding conditions are near perfect for that. The drills work very well when it's dry like this. If we get it to the moisture, we should be good. And there's a little bit of chance of showers forecast for this weekend. So if we catch those, we should be okay.
Okay. Any equipment issues through seeding time this year, or has it gone pretty smoothly?
No. There's equipment issues. We got a new drill this year.
Yeah.
And so it there was growing pains. And it's very high tech, like all the equipment is. And so sometimes, like on this drill, it's very nice. It works very well. That the hardware stuff works extremely well. Very pleased with it. The software stuff and the monitor, it's a head scratcher. Like seriously, that monitor, they've got I don't know how many different hundreds of menus and buttons to choose. So to kind of keep that all straight in your head, it can get challenging. And then if you don't open a task properly or a field properly and get going right, I'm an old guy. Fiona set it all up, and she's the go-to person to make it work. And so if I press the wrong thing, it'll seed, but it just won't show me some things that I'm interested in. For example, I started at 5:30 this morning, got going everything is good to go. She had opened the field up for me, and I got it going, and the GPS wouldn't paint. Like it wouldn't paint where I had seeded already. So it wasn't a problem because I was seeding. I know I was seeding the right rate. It told me all that, but I didn't know where I was, and I couldn't, when I did the first lap around, I couldn't close the boundaries so it could tell me exactly how many acres are left to do and stuff like that. And she came out to the field and said, it took the reading from the third tank, which wasn't even enabled because we weren't using it. So it's just little things like that drive farmers crazy.
Now, next time that Fiona, your daughter, has to come out and help you with the monitor, please record that because I want to see young tech smart daughter teaching old man Gunter how to run that monitor.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, you know what? You know what? She is tech smart. Absolutely. I give her all the credit because she did it right. But she is equally frustrated.
Yeah, I get it.
Said, like seriously, it's not.
Okay, I gotta ask you, Gunter. So when you have a problem like that, okay, you're both frustrated. Both generations are frustrated.
Yeah.
When you call the dealership and they send out the tech person, do they know what they're doing?
Okay, I got to be careful because our dealer has been exceptional. They're very good, but again, they are lacking manpower or people power. They lack technicians as well, and so they're struggling as well. And
I get it.
This we found out about 4 days into seeding. We're kind of not arguing, but we're having a discussion with the tech guy there. And saying, no, like there's something wrong. In the book it says we're supposed to have this on our monitor, that, and the other thing, but we can't find that button and we can't seem to enable it. He said, no, it's got to be there. So he phoned back. He said, I'm sitting in front of my monitor at the dealership. It's right there. So just click on here, and here. And Fiona said, yeah, I did all that. I'm in the tractor in front of my monitor, and I've clicked all these buttons that you just told me, and there's nothing. And then all of a sudden he went, oh, that's right. You're
like a different model.
People in Manitoba that has the latest version, software version.
Well, that's what you get for getting the newest.
Some of that stuff off. Yeah, and so sometimes I wish the manufacturers would stand a little bit better behind or do better education for the dealers, the technicians, and then the farmers.
Dude, just wait, because this issue that you're describing, and we're talking about monitors here, but it covers a wide gamut because software, just like a car, has become a big part of the operation of that vehicle. So jump ahead 10 years. And maybe 15 or 20 years, and there's not a motor in that tractor, and it's all like there is going to have to be a serious change in the skills and knowledge, not just on the farm, but also at some of the dealerships or with the manufacturers to support this, because it's not like you can just open the hood and start pulling wrenches. And I think that's where some of the frustration comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Like I did kind of, we made this leap into the new drill. I mean, the old one, we had it for over 10 years, 85,000 acres on it. It was time to upgrade, but I was a little apprehensive because the old drill I could fix with a hammer and a welder. I could keep it, if something broke down on the seeding unit, seeding part, I could fix that mechanically. On this thing, we had a satellite subscription outage in Manitoba. And seriously, I think 70% of the drills stopped in the field because they couldn't seed. We, on our farm, we were able to keep seeding because we have an RTK base station type GPS. And so we weren't affected. But it was crazy on social media. All the farmers were going, what the heck is going on? I can't steer. My drill doesn't seed. Yeah, they were in a real pickle. I don't know how long the outage was, but it was enough for a lot of farmers to complain.
Yeah, well, it's like one of those things where, you mean I actually have to drive this thing? Like, and steer it? Like, what? I can't do that.
Well, so we have Fiona and her cousins, both Kristen and Kaylin are on the farm here working with all of us as well. And so the tractor that does the rolling after this, we've planted soybeans, the tractor with the air conditioning problem had no air conditioning, but it had GPS. And then we had another tractor that had really good air conditioning, but no GPS. So she chose the no GPS but air conditioning tractor. So she had to roll. I think she rolled about 1,000 acres hand steering, like the old days. I said, "How was that?" She said, "Oh, I needed a massage after the evening because I was white knuckling on the steering wheel, going up and down the field to try and keep it straight." I said, "Well, welcome to my world, because that's how we used to do it all the time." So it was a great learning experience for her, and she didn't mind it. She said it was fine, but she said she's not sure if she could do it for thousands and thousands of acres every spring and fall.
Dude,
that's how we used to do it.
Yeah, I could never keep a straight line. I just terrible. It was terrible.
Bit of an art.
It is. Yeah. Very much an art. Okay. Hey, Gunter, thanks so much for joining us. We'll definitely check in with you later on the growing season. Really appreciate it. Hopefully some of these electronic issues sort themselves out. And good luck with spraying, okay?
Thank you, Shaun. Always a pleasure.
Tech issues. So frustrating. Oh, man. Especially when you know it's go time, right? Thank goodness there wasn't a lot of adversity. Like when you have adversity where, like think about last year in Manitoba, so wet, everyone's late with planting, like you're really up against the calendar, and then you have tech issues, that's where it really gets you. So it just frustrating regardless, I guess, is the best way, because you can't fix it, right? That's the thing. You don't know how to fix it. It's not pulling a wrench. It's different. There's different kind of skill set. So something that's definitely going to have to be figured out as time. And user experience when it comes to tech, absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. When we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to have one more stop in Saskatchewan, and then we'll talk to Doug Moisey of Pioneer Seeds Canada. When we come back, you're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147. I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney@realagriculture.com and you can book myself or any other Real Ag personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio for the Farmer Rapid Fire here on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM. This show is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to get up-to-date information on all of the different technologies and hybrids that Pioneer has to offer. Really leading-edge stuff, and really appreciate them being the sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire here in 2023. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire into Lake Lenore, Saskatchewan. We're talking to Chris Bauer. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Okay, how's seeding going?
We just completed a couple days ago.
Oh, well, that's got to be a bit of a relief.
Yes, it was. It was all day, every day for 17 days. So it's a relief to finally get it completed.
And how are conditions there?
Well, seeding conditions were very good. It has been warm and windy a lot, so it is drying out rapidly on top. But overall, were able to seed both fields corner to corner or finish up a little bit later on. So we can't be too unhappy about that.
Yeah. Any changes to the crop mix this year?
We kept it pretty simple. Probably took some stuff out that we didn't feel like was maybe worth growing, like flax and oats, and just, it's kept it simpler with just doing wheat, barley, and canola. I don't normally do that, but just the way things were shaping up, that's what we chose to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people cut back on oat acres. I don't think you're alone there.
No, heavy supply throughout the season. It just didn't make dollars and cents when you had, strong wheat and barley prices that they are now. So I think that's just a better cereal wise. And flax, I mean, it was a good crop of flax. We had an excellent crop of flax last year, but the market is telling us just to hold off on that as well. So that's what we've done. And we just didn't have a field for peas this year, just with the longer rotations that we do between peas. So, yeah, keeping it simple.
Is that longer rotation in between years of peas, is that all to do with root rot?
Yes, it is. We find here, 7, 8, or maybe even 10 years on some fields that you just have to make sure you don't have the disease problem, and it really hurts your yield and standability of them. So we just kind of throw it in there when it makes sense. And we farm some hilly land too, so it's we don't like to put it on everything anyway. So
yeah. We got to figure. We have to find a solution to that one, or else the pea acre in Saskatchewan, North Dakota, Eastern Montana is really, really it's going to suffer.
Yes, and it's not just that. I mean, we had a very good crop of peas last year, but you get the wrong rain at the wrong time, and everything goes flat. It makes for harvest challenges, and that's still fresh in the memory. So you don't, you get a little gun shy when you're kind of crop planting. Like, well, do I really want to scrape the ground and with rocks and dirt and stuff through the combines at the end of the year? But yeah, I mean, it's when we have our good, nice level land that's free and that works for the rotation, we do put it in there.
Have you got a handle around your marketing plan for the year ahead? Have you pre-sold very much this year?
I did pre-sell some cereals as well as canola, and right now it's looking like that was a good idea.
Yeah.
But having a bit of a drier bias over the last 3 years has us a little bit nervous with pricing too much. And then, it's still fresh in the memory, the drought that we had and then the war in Ukraine and the prices that go up. So you don't want to sell too much because you never know. But I do have a little bit of pre-sold here, before we even got too much into the crop year in February, March. So
are you still dealing with any old crop, or have you wrapped all that selling up?
I pretty much have all my old crop priced. I have maybe a little bit left over, not too much, although I am carrying over a whole bin of flax. Just was a little bit too slow on the marketing with that one.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I like to haul all my cereals through in the winter, just because it takes a lot of time, and that's the time when I have to haul.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all taken care of. I have canolas go out here yet in June and July, but and then we'll probably be pretty close to caught up and done with that.
Yeah. Now, like when you look at the map where Lake Lenore is, like if you drew a diagonal line from Saskatoon to Tisdale, Lake Lenore is kind of on that diagonal line, kind of almost in the middle of that, I guess.
Right. Yep.
Now, land prices, have you seen a real, are they strong in those parts?
Yes, they are. I would say
what's driving that?
Good crops and good prices, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that there are some investors in the area, not a lot, but there's lots of farms that have had really good crop years, and I think that there's just been excess of cash, and there's a lot of people of the generation that are retiring and selling. So there is opportunity to buy, and people are buying it. So prices are high, the $5,000 plus an acre. So yeah, it's getting expensive for sure.
Yeah. But like you said, it's a productive area. Like my understanding is that that's kind of a spot where you are, where you can load that combine with some bushels.
Yes, it's very good land. We generally get decent moisture. The land doesn't need a lot of moisture to produce a crop. We are, I wouldn't even call it a sure crop country, but, because we still are fresh in the memory of a couple years ago when we had, poor rains and what that was like. But, some rain at the right time of the year and our land can grow crop, and that makes it a little bit easier to sleep at night.
Yeah. And like you said, you've completed seeding. Now the attention shifts obviously to in-crop weed control. Is this a time do you enjoy this, like the spraying season?
This is actually the worst time of year for me.
You don't like it?
No, I don't mind the spraying season. That's okay. But the time when you finish seeding and you've got a whole bunch of jobs that were neglected, so then you got to kind of take care of that. Then you're rolling around in trying to find all the flea beetle issues, because that's always a big problem in this area as well. How are the flea beetles doing on that first early emerging canola? And, and then if we haven't had any rain like we haven't had this spring yet, it's like, well, is it going to rain? That top inch or two is starting to dry out. Sure, it would be nice to get a rain to get everything germinated, and until you get that everything germinated, then you can kind of, and stuff that's growing, then you can kind of relax. That's when I find that it kind of relaxes. So these next couple of weeks is always the hardest time for me, just making sure, did everything get seeded? Is everything going to come up really good? Is everything established? Once it's established, then I find that then a guy can relax and you can just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's that scout. It's always you're searching for problems. When you don't find them, you're double and triple checking to see what you missed. Right? It's that kind of the season. I get that 100%. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, go ahead.
The boys are busy with their sports and baseball and stuff, so it's really hard. They got baseball tournaments every weekend. It's, do I leave the farm for 3 days and not, be home to check on things? That's like the hugest, flip the coin kind of thing, right? So
yeah,
once that part is over, then it's all good.
I hear you. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
And we finish up the Farmer Rapid Fire with our show sponsor, it is Pioneer Seeds Canada. We're talking to Pioneer Seeds Canada agronomist from Alberta, is Doug Moisey. Doug, how are you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself, Shaun?
I'm doing good. Now, Doug, Alberta has been really stricken by a lot of smoke. Forest fires are really ravaging a lot of acres and really kind of not too far, relatively speaking, from you. What kind of impacts is smoke going to have on some of this early seeded crop?
Well, the one thing I've been noticing, Shaun, and we saw this a couple years ago, is that when we get heavy smoke issues, the actual smoke gets into the stomata openings of the canola leaves, and it actually causes some hormonal imbalances. And it's a paper that they published a few years ago, but they go into a suspended animation. Basically, they're not growing very much. And then you compound it with the drier conditions a lot of areas are experienced. So there's really not lots of moisture available. So things are just kind of been at a stagnant standstill. So there has been guys phoning. Some of our customers have been phoning, asking these questions. They've also been asking, what's the effect going to be on with spraying our canola crop? And one of the things we have been suggesting is that there probably could be some as far as uptake issues by the weeds themselves, even because they're going through the same problem our canola plants are. So the smoke is playing a role. We did get some rain on the weekends. We're hearing already guys are saying the crop has just did like a 180 for the guys that are still without rain. The plants are into moisture, the roots are into moisture, but now with the smoke kind of gone or abated for a while because of the winds, the plants are starting to grow, but it's a very slow growth. And that, this is part we need basically an Alberta soaker for a couple of days to really snap it out, and get that crop going again. But we're seeing that going on right now.
Yeah, and if those crops, those early cotyledon canola, if they are suspended, right, and they're kind of in a bit of a fog of smoke, so to speak, what happens here with flea beetles?
Well, that's a good question, Shaun, because that's one thing is that the flea beetles are out. They still are feeding somewhat. I did, however, notice that the flea beetles weren't as active as they could have been, and maybe the smoke affected them. I can't tell. I'm not an entomologist. but there is some stem feeding going on and there is some minor feeding. And so for me, it's very important that guys get out there, take a look at the fields, take a look for stem feeding. With these windier conditions, you're not going to see much flea beetle activity up top. They're going to be basically on the underside of the leaves. On the more heavier straw patches, they might even be hiding in the straw and nibbling on the stem. So take a look and just see what there is for stem feeding. If there is actually a lot of stem feeding going on, you're probably being forced to position. You may have to take care of that issue and start to spray for them. So it's just something that we want to be able to watch out for.
Yeah, and speaking of spraying, it is that spray decision time, which comes with some decisions on what to do with broadleaf control versus grass, stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I've been gotten a lot of questions in the last few days here. Guys are seeing a lot of their grass weeds up and about, wondering what they should be spraying. They're worried about, using their part of their allotment of whatever herbicide they're thinking, whether it's Liberty or glyphosate. And so the question is, what should we do? And so my suggestion has been is if you only got grass weeds, go in there with a herbicide that is a grass weed herbicide. Basically some graminicide, not going to name names, but to me, it's going in there with the graminicide, take control of those cereals and or volunteer or wild oats, taking control, as long as you aren't dealing with maybe a potential resistant form of wild oat. In that case, you probably are forced into using a glufosinate or a glyphosate application. But to me, is that if you don't have to use it, keep your spraying for later as far as a broadleaf and get in there and control those grasses, because typically the rule of thumb is one emerging prior to the canola crop that's established is like trying to control 10 weeds after, approximately.
Yeah.
So to me, there's some real yield robbing going on, and with the drier conditions, they are costing us. So we just want to take whatever pressure we have off that young canola crop. So,
Doug, just from the impact of smoke perspective, because there's a lot of farmers dealing with this right now, in Alberta and western side of Saskatchewan that are concerned about this. Do you think the crop is paused, or is there yield impacts down the road because of the smoke at this point? Because we did pause here, or are we just not enough data to really know at this point?
In reality, probably not enough data to really say whether it's going to be a yield impact, because we don't know what 3 to 5 weeks is going to bring us.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Like, it did create a pause, maybe for the better. I don't know. But I don't think there's enough data out there to say, yeah, it definitively lost. But typically, if we're going to lose yield at this time of year, it's more from the weeds. That is more the yield robber from a nutrient moisture perspective. And that's why it's so critical that, we need to be on top of that game this year as quick as possible, especially under these drier conditions.
Those weeds are yield robbers. There's like that data we have.
Yes. Yeah. We do have that data, and thankfully we don't have smoke data. So that's the good
okay,
thing.
Good point. Yeah, for sure.
So, it's just what's summer going to bring, experience. And I hate to say this, Shaun, but I am getting up there in years as far as age-wise. And I'd say probably if we get a normal summer, maybe some delayed maturities, but yield-wise potential, who knows? I can't see that as being an issue right now. More is this lack of moisture, and weeds are going to be the bigger issue right now that's going to affect things.
Hey, Doug, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. Always love your perspective here on the Farmer Rapid Fire and RealAg Radio. Thanks a lot, bud.
Right. Thanks, Shaun.
If you have any feedback on today's show, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio, and a big thanks to Pioneer Seeds Canada for being our show sponsor, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this episode of RealAg Radio, brought to you by Ag Expert. Go from field to farm with Canada's most trusted, most secure farm management software. Ag Expert keeps you on top of it all, no matter where you are. Get started for free at agexpert.ca.